What's up, binge watchers? Welcome to Screen Kings. For today's video, I'll be talking about the Netflix Indian anthology series called Rai. This is based on the short stories written by the celebrated author, filmmaker / writer Satyajit Ray. Now, I'm not gonna pretend that I know this person beforehand, but when I did some research, apparently this guy is a legend. He's only the inspiration behind some of the renowned filmmakers like Martin Scorsese, Christopher Nolan, and Akira Kurosawa, to name a few. And I have not seen any of his filmography, save from the Oscar-winning short film called 2, which I watched on YouTube before shooting this review. I'm heading into this series blind. Hopefully, I'm in for a pleasant surprise. Now, before I continue with this review, I invite you guys, if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do so by hitting that subscribe button. We do weekly reviews of movies and TV shows, and while you're at it, give this video a like because it really helps the channel. Now, thematically speaking, there's no strict theme when it comes to these episodes. It's not like a Black Mirror where it's set on a near future or a distant future where it portrays the fears of the humankind. No, nothing like that. But I guess the common trait for these episodes is it's forefronted by a male protagonist who mostly deals with his flaws, be it his insecurity, his arrogance, basically the frailties of a man. By the end, there's a moral of the story which is either delivered through retribution or redemption. So I guess that's the main thing that this show has it for. Now, the first episode that we have is called Forget Me Not, directed by Srijit Mukherjee. And in it, we have a successful entrepreneur / corporate shark named Ipsit Nair. He is blessed by this eidetic memory. He prides himself as having built his empire based on his ability to memorize numerous amounts of data without any fail. One day, his life turns upside down when he encounters a woman from his past that he can't seem to remember. With that comes the downward spiral of confusion and self-doubt that will really destroy him as a character. Now, onto my positives for this one, I really like the cinematography here, especially the nighttime scenes. We have here a character who's accustomed to living a posh high life, and you can see the sophistication in the way they frame these things, and there's still a tinge of darkness and depression in those pictures, so it kind of sets the mood for the rest of the episode. And also the actor here, Ali Fazal, I've seen him before in a movie called Victoria and Abdul. He gave a great performance there, and the same can be said here. Even though his character is not the most original when it comes to having an alpha male type of energy, narcissist, egoist, and full with self-importance, here he plays his character with a controlled swagger, which is just fitting. And as the episode progresses, he begins to lose that swagger. He becomes more neurotic and more paranoid. And I think the actor did a great transition in doing those two mental states. As we go along through his day, learning more of his routine, we kind of get a sense of who this man is, that apart from being a douche, he must have stepped some people along the way in reaching for the top of that corporate ladder, and maybe he has done immoral things in his past. This is the perfect character to root against, and there's a satisfaction to see a arrogant man of stature starting to lose his superpower, which is his memory. The thing is, this episode feels monotonous and drags similar scenarios of Ipsit forgetting things, because as the story progresses on, he will learn that there are more things that he forgets. It feels like this movie has been saying the same point over and over again. It successfully puts you on the state of confusion because you're mostly following his perspective here. You're as confused as he is. The reveal happens on the third act, and by then, it kind of feels ham-fisted to the point that there's an overlong exposition of what actually happened. Though that shot in particular is impressive because it's a one-take shot and it kind of blends fiction from reality. It still feels ridiculous and frankly might be subject to misinterpretation, because personally, it took me for a good moment to realize, oh, this is actually what happened. I wish that they develop some of the characters here so that we can learn more of their motivations and the resolution that does not come to a third act, that is slowly eased on through the narrative. So ultimately, this episode is kind of more focused in giving that shock value with that third act twist, as opposed to carefully building the story with nuance. So with that, I'm gonna give this episode a 2.5 out of 5 stars. The next episode is called Bahrupiya, or its English translation, Multi-Faced. This is also directed by Satyajit Mukherjee, and in it we have a timid makeup artist who has been spiteful and bitter on the way life has turned against him. One day, his life takes a different turn when his grandmother has passed away and she bequeaths him this encyclopedia about makeup prosthetics. Now, he used that knowledge he gained from that book to impersonate other people and eventually get back to those who have wronged him. And there's a nice contrast from the first episode because while the first episode mostly focused on the high life, this one mostly focuses on the poverty side of India. The episode moves on a depressing and a somber tone all throughout. Then it gets hauntingly dark towards the end. And I think this is my least favorite of them all. I was a bit bored watching this, honestly, and that is not to say that this story is bereft of any thought-provoking questions. It actually poses that question that, is it enough to change your face, to change your whole identity, or does being ruthless is the only way of living when it comes to living in this ruthless world? So a lot of questions are being thrown, but then again, I was looking for new ones for this particular story. Our main character here, named Rajesh, he eventually develops this god complex, and slowly by slowly, as he transforms himself, he gets engulfed by this emotion of anger that he becomes evil. Along the way, a fortune teller character who can read people's identities just by looking at their face enters the picture, and in that sense, the movie kind of posits these two characters as humble representations of God and devil. So there are a lot of metaphors in these episodes that help morph the narrative to something else, but then again, I guess the way that it was executed is just overstated, a bit lacking of nuance in the way they set up the problems of this character and eventually how he decided to resolve his problems, because this is a character where humiliation and rejection follows wherever he go. Think of him as like Joker. So the actor here, Menon, he has a lot of meat to sink into. And while the performance is good, I think the oversimplified execution and derivative storytelling hinders the episode from finding its true identity. This one gets a 2 out of 5 stars from me. Now, the next 2 episodes have a welcome change when it comes to tone because there are more moments of level here. These 2 episodes are the lighter of the bunch. The third film is called Hungama Kyon Barpa, directed by Abhishek Chaubey, and in it we have 2 strangers. One is a renowned singer/musician and the other one is a former wrestler turned sports journalist. They boarded the same train, they are on the same room, and they can't seem to shake that feeling that they've probably met each other before. Now, it will be revealed early on that these 2 men have boarded a similar train 10 years ago as younger men. Now, something happened in the past which I'm not gonna reveal, but let's just say that it's one of those episodes where life kind of makes a point that time has a funny way of you meeting your own destiny. So yeah, that's the most I'm gonna say. So out of all the episodes here, this is my favorite. First, because it's mostly consistent on its tone all throughout. It remained grounded with its tone, which is light, but at the same time, it packs a lot of message. There's more of a classic tale vibe into this, something that you can tell to your kids, and and with a good moral story that the episode really landed very well. I also like the direction of this episode because the script in itself is very much of a chamber piece, and yes, there are some theater aesthetics throughout the whole episode, the way they shot this, but the director added some quirky and unique sensibilities to make it his own. And also there's some inclusion of montage from the flashbacks of one particular character to feel his backstory. Overall, this theater style of execution really works for the most part of the episode. It can be a bit overstretched with a 1 hour runtime. Maybe a 30 to 40 minute treatment would have landed a much more concise and much more impactful episode, but overall, I really dig the performances of the cast here. The 2 leads, Manoj, Bajpayee, and Gajraj. I love the interplay of their awkwardness, and you can sense that the script would have been much funnier if you understand the language. Either way, the chemistry between these 2 leads is excellent, and especially the character played by Manoj Bajpayee, which is Musafir, because this is a peculiar case of a character. He has the tendency to speak to himself when he's alone, like he's addressing an invisible audience, and the director utilizes that character trait by panning out the camera and showing that these are the audiences that Musafir is actually talking to. So it creates a quirky feel that I really like. It remains light all throughout, but at the same time the message landed very well, which I'm not gonna say because I don't want to spoil what it's about, but it gave me a smile on my face. So I'm gonna give this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Now, the final episode is titled Spotlight, directed by Vasan Bala, and our protagonist here is a popular actor named Vic, played by Harshvardhan Kapoor. So in here, he's going through some existential crisis. He has a lot of adulating fans, but at the same time, he's being mocked by the critics as not being talented enough. So that seeps into his insecurity and to his worth as a person. He's being mocked by the critics as one look Vic, and that pertains to his singular expression in his movies. And apart from that, he struggles to share spotlight with someone else. So that will be put into test because one day he's filming and staying in this particular hotel, and a religious figure enters the same hotel, and the staff is taking away some of his privileges in favor of this religious figure. So this is a satirical comedy, and right from the get-go you realize that these two characters represent two pillars of the fan culture, which is cinema for Vic and religion for the religious figure here named Didi. The episode examines the similarities between these two fan cultures, mostly told on the perspective of an idol, and what does it feel like to be debilitated with such insecurity when that spotlight is taken away from you. The movie remains satirical and funny for the duration of the episode, and it has that tendency of urging you not to take this episode seriously with its musical scores and the way the drum beats fast in some pivotal moments. Now, that being said, I feel like this episode could have used more somber tone in it so that the message will kick in of how far will you go for fame. And you know, when it comes to these icons, they tend to chase stardom, not necessarily what makes them great. So that might be evident for these two icons here. Now, the character of Didi only appears on the latter half of the episode, but you can feel her presence throughout. And I like the interpretation of this character because this is not something that I expect from a religious figure. She acts like more of a Gen Z influencer, which is kind of funny. We got here an important conversation between her and Vic, and I felt like that conversation really doesn't go anywhere, and the third act kind of dips on magic realism. It's amusing and funny, but at the same time you find yourself asking what is happening in this episode because you're just left clueless. And by the end of it, you kind of felt robbed because it made you laugh, but at the same time it didn't really hit the mark on what it's trying to say. So for that, I'm gonna give this one a 3 out of 5 stars. So as you can tell, right here is a mixed bag when it comes to my liking and preference, and that is normal when it comes to having different directors direct each episode. I guess the main takeaway here is the classic tale of Rai gets interpreted into a whole different story depending on the take of the filmmaker here. If my math is correct, the average score here would be 3 out of 5. So I think that's already a decent grade for season 1 of Rai, and I would be interested in seeing a second season. If I'm going to urge you to watch one episode, it would be third episode, which is Hungaman Kyon Barpa, because that is my favorite of them all. But that is just my opinion. How about you guys? Have you seen this show? Let me know what you think in the comment sections down below. Also, if you enjoyed watching this video, hit that like button and subscribe to us for weekly content. Thank you so much guys for watching. Until then, see you on the next one.